Hey guys, and welcome to a new Top 10. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 ideas for internal Nintendo crossovers. And you're probably wondering what the hell I mean. Well, basically, franchises that Nintendo own that should cross over. What's inspired me? The newly announced Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, in which the Mario & Luigi franchise crosses over with the Paper Mario franchise. So I just kind of got thinking what other things should cross over, and I thought I'd make a little list for you guys to listen to, and as always, give me your feedback. So this first episode is entry 10 to 6. These first ones are a little vague, they're not as fleshed out as my top 5, but nonetheless they are ideas. So these crossovers could be purely characters, so characters from one universe coming to another one. It could be complete merging of worlds and gameplay styles, or it could be a franchise taking on the gameplay style of another franchise. So yeah, I won't keep you any longer, we'll get straight in there, and I will see you at the end of the video. For entry number 10, I've gone for Xenoblade and Sin Punishment. Now, the reason for this is basically the upcoming Xenoblade Chronicles X, I say upcoming for us because it's already out in Japan, is much more futuristic than the original Xenoblade. And if we look at Sin and Punishment, it's a series that I feel is underappreciated. In fact, half you watching probably don't even know what Sin and Punishment is. If that is the case, give it a Google search, or check out on your eShop on the Wii U and you can purchase both of the previous games in the series. Sin and Punishment is like a futuristic, on-rail style-ish shooting game, and I think the style kind of fits in with the most recent Xenoblade game. How I think this would work? Well, it would work as a DLC episode pack style thing, where you would obviously purchase the pack, and then Issa and Kachi, who were the main characters from Sin and Punishment, Star Successor, the Wii game, would come into your game and say, look guys, we need help, to your team. You would help them by playing as them, defeat whoever it may be, and then you have Issa and Kachi as characters. I think this would be completely amazing. I know a lot of Sin and Punishment fans would love it. I would really dig it. And I think it would put a bit of spotlight on Sin and Punishment, because, you know, I think it's gone pretty much unnoticed. And then I think it's a really cool additional thing that if you complete that package, that episode, you would unlock Sakai from the original game as a character. And I've probably butchered all the names, but you know, that's how I know them. So Sin and Punishment and Xenoblade, that's my first idea. Let me know what you think. Entry number 9, I've gone for something fairly similar to entry number 10 in terms of it's just kind of characters jumping to another franchise, and that is Star Fox and F-Zero. If anything, because these two franchises have been referencing each other for quite some time now. The first and most obvious one is the character James McCloud in the F-Zero franchise, who, well, his name is the same as Star Fox's dad, and he looks exactly the same. It's just a clear reference, and I'm pretty sure the vehicle he has also references the Star Fox series in some way. Probably should have looked that up, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Also, if any of you have played Star Fox Command, you may know that there's a boss character in there called Octoman, who is very similar to Octoman in F-Zero. And not only that, Star Fox Command has multiple endings, and one of these, if not more, involves Fox and Falco departing the Star Fox team and entering a Grand Prix, which I believe is called G-Zero in that game, but obviously it's a clear reference to F-Zero. So the idea is basically for the Star Fox team, and maybe some stages, to jump across to F-Zero, because let's face it, Nintendo will make another F-Zero game. They just have to, or else people are just going to go on and on until the end of time. Kind of like the Pokemon Ruby Sapphire scenario. I think the whole Star Fox team would transition quite well into there. There's over 30 default characters on F-Zero anyway, so I think having quite a large amount of Star Fox characters isn't really going to dent that roster. It's not going to become, you know, half Star Fox, half F-Zero. It's literally just going to be F-Zero with a bit of Star Fox added in, which I think is the way it should be. So I think that's a really obvious crossover that should happen. I think if the F-Zero does come out in the future, It's great for, you know, Star Fox to continue the little thing they've got going at the moment with Star Fox Zero, F-Zero, you know, Illuminati and all that jazz. So I think, you know, that would be pretty cool. For number 8, I've gone for something a little bit more obscure, and that is the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. So that's the puzzle genre with the little toy Marios and stuff with Chibi Robo. Now, this may be just because Chibi Robo is back in the spotlight with his new game Ziplash, but you know what? Who cares? Chibi Robo needs more love, so I would see this as a spin-off of the core series. That said, no one seems to know what Chibi Robo's core series is, not even the developers. I do think they should have stuck with the original formula, but you know what? That's a discussion for another time. Anyway, how I think this would work is in a similar way to, this is pretty obscure as well, how I got my inspiration. I think it's Pokemon Rumble Blast for the 3DS. It had a very basic storyline. Actually, it might have been Pokemon Rumble U. I think it was Pokemon Rumble U. That's a tad embarrassing. Basically, the storyline of that game was a shipment of toys falls off the trailer or gets dropped by an employee, flushes down the river, and then those toys have to make their way back to the store. Very simple story, doesn't make a lot of sense, but you know, it does the job. I think that sort of thing would work perfectly here. So, a shipment of mini Mario, Luigi, Donkey Kong, Toad, Peach toys gets dropped, washes down the river or whatever, and then Chibi Robo finds them. And then Chibi Robo, because, you know, they're toys, they can't move on their own, decides that he is going to get these toys back to the store on his own. So it would be a combination of the puzzle games we're used to, and maybe some Chibi Robo style gameplay. So maybe Chibi Robo has to get to these toys to activate them. So if for some reason, somehow, a toy has ended up lodged on a shelf up high, he has to use his, you know, his cord and stuff like that to make his way up and activate the toy before engaging in some sort of little puzzle activity. Again, like I said earlier in the video, these aren't fully fleshed out ideas, these are just basic ideas for you to go and run with, or for me to think about some more after this video. So let me know what you think about that one. Entry number 7 is something I don't particularly want to happen as such, but for me it's just really, really obvious, and Nintendo are just so close to it, it kind of makes sense to do it, and if I'm being honest, it's going to sell like hotcakes if they do it. And that is Pokemon crossed over with Animal Crossing. And what I mean by that is Pokemon taking on the Animal Crossing formula. Now, I say Nintendo are close to this because if you take a look at the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, you have Pokemon characters that interact with each other almost like humans do. They live in like a little town, they buy stuff, they wear stupid little scarves, they go on adventures, and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's borderline Animal Crossing. So they could either literally make a game just like Animal Crossing where you play as Pokemon, you have a little village, you get furniture, you make your house, you get clothes, all that sort of jazz. I think they would kind of get to a hiccup though when it comes to like the insect and fish collecting, because that, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense in Animal Crossing anyway, but it would make no sense whatsoever in Pokemon. So what they could do instead is perhaps with the next Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, yes, I know there's one around the corner, but I'm thinking further ahead, they could put a bigger emphasis on the town part and the customization of it, so you could actually make your own home and your own costumes and all that sort of stuff. So I think if the Pokemon, I guess more, it's not so much the Pokemon series taking on Animal Crossing, it's the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series taking on the Animal Crossing series. Like I said, it's not an idea I'm completely ecstatic about. I just think it makes a lot of sense. I just think if Nintendo did it, kids would go mental. I probably would go mental after a while. I'd probably crack and be like, you know what, this is amazing. That said, I haven't played a Mystery Dungeon game in quite a while, so there might be a bit more customization to it already that I don't know about. But yeah, I think that makes sense. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah, make it happen. And for my final entry in this episode, it's again something a little bit obscure, but it's an idea I had a very, very long time ago. In fact, around the launch window, I guess, of the GameCube. I say launch window, I mean when I got the GameCube, which I can't really remember. And I picked up a game called Doshin the Giant. I don't know if any of you have heard of this, I'm sure some of you have. Doshin's a really obscure Nintendo game that I'm actually really surprised made it out overseas, where you played as a big, weird yellow giant that morphed the earth to create lands where humanoid characters could create towns and stuff like that. Sounds a bit weird, but it was actually really, really fun. The controls are a bit dodgy on it though, I will say that. And at the same time, I also picked up the original Pikmin, and I kind of questioned why the Pikmin weren't in Doshin. I don't know why I did, because, you know, it wouldn't have made much sense anyway back then, but I just kind of said, hey, you know what, the Pikmin would be cool in Doshin, and that's basically my idea. Relaunch Doshin the Giant, and instead of the human characters, you have Pikmin. Now, I am aware that that has the potential to be almost brand damaging to the Pikmin series. As you know, they don't, you know, have human characters and all that sort of stuff. But the way I see it, maybe it wouldn't actually be advertised as a Pikmin game. It would be a Doshin the Giant game, and the characters, or the villagers, just happen to be Pikmin. Or maybe even just humans with Pikmin attire or something like that. Like I said, I just really want another Doshin game, if I'm being honest with you. And I think chucking Pikmin in there might justify it. That said, you know, maybe villagers from Animal Crossing, that might work. I don't know. I think the Pikmin would probably work better. You know, they can make really weird, obscure sculptures and stuff out of, like, materials. I'm not sure all the animals would do that. You know, they're all about style and stuff. I mean, there's like a giraffe that drives a car that's gay in the Japanese version. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the Animal Crossing series would really gel with it too much. The other thing it could be would be the Denpa Men. Some of you might not have heard of them either. The Denpa Men is another really weird Nintendo franchise that's available on the eShop. There's 3 games of them, and they're kind of like the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games. And the Denpa Men are quite obscure. So I think the Denpa Men might work in it, but then that's like getting 2 franchises that no one really knows about and sticking them together and hoping people recognise it, which I'm not sure would work. But I think chucking in the Pikmin to a Doshin game, you might get a bit of attention. But then again, I wouldn't want them to do it if it would damage the Pikmin brand. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Maybe you guys have an idea for how we could bring back Doshin through the means of a crossover. Maybe we just chuck another Doshin game out there and hope for the best. But yeah, that's the first 5 entries of my top 10 internal Nintendo crossovers. The top 5 are the ones I really want to see happen. So these 5 were just kind of basic ideas, but to be fair, I'd quite happily see all of them. So yeah, let me know what you think about them, and come back very soon for the next episode where we will talk about the top 5. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you soon.